On the night of December 20th, 1968, a quiet lover's lane in Vallejo, California, became the stage for the Zodiac Killer's first known attack. High school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday never returned home. Their murders would become the foundation of one of America's most infamous unsolved cases. But what exactly did investigators uncover that night? Let's go over the evidence. At around 11:20 p.m., a passing driver spotted the couple's Rambler station wagon parked on the gravel turnout along Lake Herman Road. She saw the bodies and notified police. They arrived shortly after and immediately began collecting details. The Rambler was parked at the gravel turnoff facing east. The passenger door was open. The Zodiac fired off at least 2 warning shots. One bullet hit the right rear window and lodged into the left rear wheel well. The other was fired into the vehicle's headliner. David Faraday was found lying on the ground near the rear wheel of the Rambler, shot at close range below the left ear. Betty Lou Jensen was discovered 33 feet away from the Rambler, lying on the ground. She had been shot 5 times in the back while fleeing. One of the strongest pieces of evidence was the .22 caliber weapon used in the murders. 10 shell casings were recovered from the scene, one found on the passenger floorboard. The weapon used was a .22 caliber semi-automatic handgun, likely a J.C. Higgins Model 80 or High Standard Model 101. There were no direct witnesses to the murders. However, investigators collected sightings of cars in the area that night. At least 2 vehicles were seen parked in the turnout before the murders. A white Chevy Impala was reportedly spotted at the turnoff earlier. Some witnesses claimed they saw a blue car in the vicinity. One witness spotted 2 vehicles at the turnoff moments before the murders. After driving for a quarter mile, he heard 1 gunshot. None of these leads produced a clear suspect, but they established that the other driver had been nearby, meaning the killer was not operating in total isolation. The killer forced the couple out of the car at gunpoint. David may have resisted or tried to shield Betty Lou, which could explain why he was shot first. Betty Lou ran in fear, but the killer shot her in the back as she fled. Police believe it was likely a targeted killing, possibly someone the victims knew. But as later attacks followed, the Lake Herman murders would be reclassified as the beginning of a terrifying string of murders. On the night of July 4th, 1969, the Zodiac Killer struck again, this time at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, California. The attack left 1 dead and 1 gravely injured. Shortly after midnight, Darlene Farron, 22, and her friend Michael Mageau, 19, parked Darlene's brown Corvair in a secluded lot at Blue Rock Springs Park. Just minutes later, another car pulled in beside them. Michael asked Darlene who the man was. She told him not to worry. The car quickly sped off from the parking lot. A short time later, that same car returned and pulled up behind them. A man stepped out armed with a 9mm Luger pistol. He shined a flashlight into the victim's eyes and then fired multiple rounds into the car. After walking away briefly, the shooter returned and fired more shots at point-blank range. Darlene was fatally wounded. Michael survived, though barely, and became one of only a few to ever give a description of the Zodiac. 9 casings from a 9mm were recovered at the scene. This marked a shift from the .22 caliber weapon used in the Lake Herman murders. The weapon used was a semi-automatic handgun, possibly a Luger. Michael Mageau provided a crucial eyewitness account. He described the attacker as a white male, about 5'8", stocky build, 195 to 200 pounds, short, curly light brown hair with a large face. When the Zodiac began firing, Michael jumped into the rear passenger seat. The Zodiac walked away until he heard Michael screaming. He returned and continued firing. Michael pulled the door handle and fell into the parking lot. The killer then drove off. Less than an hour after the shooting, at 12:40 a.m., a call was placed to Vallejo Police Department. The caller spoke in a flat, emotionless voice.
I want to report a double murder. If you will go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway to the public park, you will find the kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
This call was placed at a payphone located just blocks from the police station. This was the Zodiac's first communication, a taunting move that initially shifted the investigation into something far more sinister. 3 teenagers spotted the wounded couple in the parking lot and alerted police. The police arrived at around 12:20 a.m. Darlene would die from her wounds, but Michael survived. Investigators realized that they were dealing with a serial offender. The phone call was chilling proof that the killer wanted recognition. He wasn't hiding. He was playing a game. On the afternoon of September 27, 1969, the Zodiac Killer struck again. This time, he acted out a sick game. What unfolded at Lake Berryessa was unlike anything seen before in American crime. A brutal attack carried out in broad daylight, with a killer wearing a costume, straight from a nightmare. College students Brian Hartnell, 20, and Cecilia Shepard, 22, were enjoying a quiet picnic on the shores of Lake Berryessa in Napa County. They had arrived at around 4 p.m. A little while later, Cecilia spotted a man walking towards them. He got closer and closer and then ducked behind a tree. The man suddenly stepped out from behind the tree, wearing a black hood with clip-on sunglasses and a bib-like chest piece, marked with a white crosshair symbol. He was holding a gun. The man told Brian and Cecilia that he was an escaped convict from either Montana or Colorado. He claimed that he needed their car and money to flee to Mexico. But instead of taking their belongings, he tied them up with pre-cut lengths of plastic clothesline. Then, without warning, he pulled out a large knife and stabbed them both repeatedly. Brian was stabbed 6 times, Cecilia 10. Investigators determined the weapon was a foot-long double-edged blade, possibly a bayonet-style knife. Size 10.5 wing walker boot prints were found leading to and from the scene. After the attack, the killer walked calmly to Brian's white 1956 Volkswagen Carmen Ghia and left a chilling note. Written in black felt-tip marker, the Zodiac's crosshair symbol. Dates of his previous attacks: 12/20/68, 7/4/69. The current date, September 27, 69, 6:30, by knife. This was the first time that the Zodiac had documented his crimes directly at the scene. After the attack, Brian and Cecilia got the attention of a passing fisherman on a boat. He went to get help. Brian untied Cecilia with his teeth. She eventually freed him. Brian made the long, difficult journey to go and get help, almost blacking out multiple times until rangers finally found him. Brian Hartnell's survival gave police their most detailed account yet. He described the costume, a black executioner-style hood with a clip-on pair of sunglasses over the eye holes, and the chest symbol sewn into a black tunic. He recalled the killer's calm voice, his rehearsed story, and the deliberate way that he carried out the attack. Cecilia, before losing consciousness, confirmed much of Brian's account. Sadly, she died 2 days later in the hospital.
I considered him a robber. I had absolutely no thought that he was anything but that. And when we were at this robbery stage, I didn't consider any real threat to my life or to the girl or anything. I really didn't consider this, but I really wanted to help him. And
did he seem as though he would like your help at all?
No, he didn't, and he didn't even end up taking the money. But the real concern that I have is that he doesn't do this again.
At 7:40 p.m., about an hour after the attack, the Napa County Police Department received a phone call. The voice calmly reported,
I want to report a murder. No, a double murder. They are 2 miles north of park headquarters. They were in a white Volkswagen Karmann Ghia. I'm the one that did it.
The Lake Berryessa attack revealed a chilling new side to the Zodiac. He was no longer hiding in the dark. He was staging a performance, turning murder into theater. On the night of October 11, 1969, the Zodiac Killer carried out one of his boldest attacks yet. In the heart of San Francisco, in a neighborhood full of witnesses. Unlike the remote sites of his earlier crimes, this killing happened on a city street, and this time, investigators finally got hard physical evidence. At about 9:40 p.m., Paul Stein, a 29-year-old cab driver, picked up a fare near the Theater District in his 1968 Ford Galaxy 500 taxicab. The passenger asked to be driven to the upscale Presidio Heights neighborhood. At the corner of Washington and Cherry Street, the cab pulled over. Instead of paying his fare, the passenger shot Paul Stein once in the head with a 9mm handgun. The killer calmly leaned over Stein's body, took his keys, wallet, and removed a piece of his bloodied shirt, and he walked off into the night. Partial fingerprints were lifted from the cab's interior and exterior. At least one was considered usable. The debate continues over whether it belonged to the killer or was contaminated. 3 teenagers looking out of a nearby window saw the killer wiping down the cab. They described him as a white male, early 40s, stocky build, reddish blonde hair, wearing glasses. Incredibly, 2 responding police officers may have briefly encountered the Zodiac. Officer Donald Fook and Eric Zems were driving towards the crime scene when they saw a man casually walking near the Presidio. The man matched the suspect description, but due to an error from dispatch, they were told to be on the lookout for a black male suspect. They let the man pass without questioning him. Later, the Zodiac himself claimed in letters that the police had indeed spoken to him that night. Days later, the Zodiac mailed a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle that included a piece of Paul Stein's blood-stained shirt. This grisly proof confirmed that the letter writer was indeed the killer. Over time, Zodiac would mail additional shirt pieces and letters to prove their authenticity. This was one of the most undeniable links between the crimes and the Zodiac's communication. Based on the teenager's testimony, police artists created the now famous Zodiac sketch. The image became the cornerstone of Zodiac suspect identification for decades. By late 1969, the Zodiac was no longer just a killer. He had become a figure of terror across California. Just weeks after the Blue Rock Springs attack, the Zodiac mailed his first letters. On July 31st, 1969, 3 nearly identical letters were sent to the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Examiner, and the San Francisco Chronicle. Each contained details only the killer could know, including ammunition types and descriptions of the victim's wounds. Each letter also included a third of a cipher, which he demanded to be printed on the front page of the papers, or else he threatened more killings. Within a week, the 408 cipher was cracked, not by law enforcement, but by a school teacher and his wife.
I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing a wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all. To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the lone people I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife.
On August 4th, 1969, a new letter arrived at the San Francisco Examiner. It was signed with the now iconic crosshair symbol and the phrase, "This is the Zodiac speaking." From then on, he had named himself and cemented his place in criminal history. In his letters, he bragged about eluding police. He mocked investigators and even claimed that he was stopped and let go by officers the night of Paul Stein's murder. Zodiac's letters often carried terrifying threats, claiming that he would shoot school children on buses, picking them off as they come bouncing out. He threatened mass killings. These threats sent waves of fear across Northern California. Though none of these larger attacks were carried out, they proved his ability to control the public through fear. The 340 cipher remained unsolved for over 50 years, until it was finally cracked in 2020.
I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show, which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber, because it will send me to paradise all the sooner, because I now have enough slaves to work for me, where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise. So they are afraid of death. I am not afraid of death, because I know that my new life is death. Life will be an easy one in paradise.
The Zodiac case remains one of the most haunting mysteries in American history. Perhaps one day, new technology or a long-lost clue will finally reveal the truth. Until then, the Zodiac's identity remains a mystery. I want to thank you all for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you on the next. Peace.